All right, hello, beautiful people. Hey, girl. Hey, how are we doing? All right, now we're gonna move on to our next part. We went out back into the backstory of how we met. Like I said, I was right for the picking whenever we met, but it's not my fault, and it's not your fault if you're attracted to a narcissist. I used to ask myself, like, how did I let this happen? Why did I attract him? But the truth is, it's not my fault that I attracted a narcissist. It's his fault, that he chose to lie, manipulate, and abuse my trust. So, they wear masks. So it's not me. It's not nothing that I did or didn't do. Narcissists wear masks. They're, like I keep saying, they're master manipulators. I gave love, he gave control. I was very open. He was very calculated. So that's on him. That's not on me. So if you attracted one, if you're still in a relationship with one and don't know how to get out, that's on them. That's not on you. The sad thing is, it's highly unlikely that if you're still there, they're not going to change because they don't learn lessons the same way that we do. For example, while we were together, while he was, on that merry-go-round and had all those different women believing all types of different things, and while I was pregnant, he got into a car accident. And the car accident, literally, the other driver hit him directly on the driver's side, and two of his other children were in the car with him, and they were not injured, thankfully, thank God, because one of the things that I really stressed whenever I was with him was to make sure that everybody in the car had on seatbelts. Now, his way around that, was to... Now, his way around not wearing a seatbelt is he still does it, actually. He buckles the seatbelt in, and then the part that's supposed to go over your shoulder, he lifts that up and puts it behind his back or whatever. So the bottom part is buckled. And he got pulled over several times for not wearing a seatbelt. And then he tried to argue with the officer and tell the officer that he was wearing a seatbelt. And the officer was like, no, sir, you're not wearing a seatbelt. That's not how seatbelts work. And if you ever get in an accident, you will be injured in the accident. And the other part of the equation, he was letting his younger child at the time, he was letting them ride in the front seat. And whenever I was around, though, I told him that if you read above on the visor tells you that they have to be a certain age or a certain weight to be able to sit in the front seat. So, of course, that caused a lot of tears because, she was used to riding in the front and all that. But anytime I was around or anytime they rode in the car with me, I made sure that they both were in the back seat and they both had on their seat belts the correct way. Because I told him that they're going to try to emulate you or do what they see you do. But I always did checks and made sure that anytime that his other children were with me, that they were safe and secure and had what they needed and a lot of what they wanted. But anyway, narcissists, they're rule breakers. They don't believe in following rules or following the laws even, and they figure out a way to get around it. So when the car accident happened, they had just dropped me off at my job. And not even 30 minutes after they left, that's when the car accident happened. Now, he also had a habit of any time that he dropped me off at work, that was the time that he would spend with one of his many female friends. He would drop me off at work, and then he would go spend time or do whatever he wanted to do with one of his female friends. And he had a habit of, it was certain female friends that he would leave his other children with. Remember, I was pregnant at the time. So I had always said that you will never do my child like that. My child will never be in the company of all these different types of females that don't even like me, don't even want to talk to me. But you think I want my child around that person, the person that doesn't like me, doesn't want to talk to me, but you're going to leave my child with that person? Because what he would do is he would leave his children with another female while he went to go spend time with another female. And I don't know if the mother of his children, I don't know if she knew that at the time. I don't know. I'm not sure. But that was what he had a habit of doing. He would leave them with me or with other females to go spend time with another female. So, I mean, yeah, the audacity, the nerve, but that's what he did. And he had been doing it for a very long time. And I guess getting away with it for a very long time. But anyway, when the accident happened, the car hit him on the driver's side. and his other 2 children were not injured, thankfully, because they both had on seatbelts. And that was due to me being very persistent, and consistent about them always having their seatbelts on, no matter what. No matter what he did, I made sure they had their seatbelts on. But after he had the accident, think about it, he was used to having a merry-go-round of women, and he never had to deal with one female for a long period of time because, excuse me, when one female would get on his nerves or make him mad or whatever, he would just go to another one. Because there was always a female that was willing to, deal with him or whatever with him. Because like I said, he was a chameleon, He had all these different people on his roster, basically. So he never had to deal with, any of us for a long period of time. And that's why I say I think that was the other reason, too, why he decided to just dip out like he did. Because he got tired of being responsible. He had never been forced to be responsible before. And with me being, a disabled veteran, I guess something in his heart, made him feel obligated to be responsible to me and the 2 children. But that didn't last long because, a lot of times when people get ready to leave and do something that they want to do, they would try to start an argument with you over nothing. So then he got tired of that, where he would start an argument with me over nothing, but I wouldn't argue with him. I would just present him with the facts or whatever the situation was. And I always told him that it really didn't matter to me. Like, even if he did whatever he was doing, he still needed to be responsible for his 2 children. And I said, even if he did decide to dip out, I was still going to call him whenever they needed something, which is exactly what I did when I was in Birmingham. Even after he disappeared like he did, I still called him and said, hey, they need this or that. Now, whether he did it or not is another story. But anyway, I did not feel guilty or anything whenever he did what he did. I had both my eyes open. He chose to try to manipulate me. And the difference in me and his situation was I caught on to his manipulation really quickly. And before, I guess, a lot of other people did. Because I knew that he wasn't, I saw that with my own eyes that he was not going to change. And I knew that I didn't want my children to grow up in that environment. So I told him that they're not going to be going from house to house, from woman to woman, from pillar to post, basically, spending the night at different people's houses. And then that goes to the other thing of he was so used to having different females because he would do services, massages, haircuts, plumbing work, and different things like that. And then they would still pay him to do the service, but they were also being physical with each other. And that never made sense to me, how if you're having relations with a male and you call this person over to your house to say, I don't know, cut your hair or do your eyebrows, because he did some fire eyebrows. He used to keep my eyebrows laid. Like, I loved how he did my eyebrows. That was one of the things that he did, was kept my eyebrows laid. That's hard to find a person that can, do your eyebrows exactly the way you want them to be done. But that was the thing. Like, he tried to make himself where whatever service he did, it was hard to find somebody that could do it like him, whether it was eyebrows or a massage or even in the bedroom. He tried to make himself like indispensable. That was another way he maintained control. But like I said, he had females in his life that would pay him for his services, and that never made sense to me because I never paid him for anything. From day one, I never paid him for anything. Now, I paid with my time and my mental and the emotional and all that stuff. Yeah, that's how I end up paying for stuff. But anyway, that's a wrap on like the backstory of how we met, and I don't feel guilty. So you shouldn't feel guilty either. Don't blame yourself, for the fact that you attracted a narcissist. And if you can't figure out how to get out of it, don't blame yourself either. Just keep being patient with yourself, give yourself grace, and eventually you'll figure out, a way to let that person go. Maybe they'll leave like mine did, but hopefully you'll figure out a way to get out, and be able to maintain your peace and figure out how to move on. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next part.